Okay, guys, here we go. I'm going to tell you right now, I get really fired up about what we're going to be doing here in this part of the year. I think this is the most important stuff that we study all year, and you're going to see I get real excited about it because what's happening, everything we have studied all year, now it all comes together. Ideas we had from ancient Greece, ideas we had from ancient Rome, ideas from the Enlightenment, ideas from the English Civil War, ideas from the American Revolution. They all come together and we see them come into combination, and we end up with something that we call, the U.S. Constitution, the document by which we govern ourselves in the United States today. Now, it's really important to understand that initially the United States was not ruled under the Constitution. Remember, they declared independence on July 4th, 1776. The British agree that they are independent in the Treaty of Paris in 1783. And they're from 1776 to 1787, they are using something called the Articles of Confederation to govern themselves, the 13 colonies which became the 13 states. The Articles of Confederation place most of the power of the government with the states. Now, why would they do that? Well, remember, why are they revolting against King George? They say there's too much power in a king. They want to make sure that there is no single power that has too much power. So they the word I'm going to use is diffuse or spread out power throughout the states to make sure that the government can't become too powerful. But that creates a lot of problems because each state has too much authority in the end. States can determine we're not going to send tax money to the federal government, and then the federal government, the national government, can't pay soldiers. That happened a lot during the American Revolution. States would go out and create their own treaties with other countries, which created all kinds of problems. You know, if Virginia has a treaty with France and Delaware has a treaty with Britain, it created big issues. They couldn't agree on how to create a postal service. They couldn't agree on roads. They would tax. If I'm making widgets, I'm a widget manufacturer and I make widgets in Pennsylvania, but I want to sell them in Virginia. You know what Virginia does? They place a tax on my widgets if I sell them in Virginia. Why? They want to protect the widget makers who are in Virginia. So and that slows down commerce. There's all kinds of problems. So what happens in May of 1787? Delegates from all 13 states get together in Philadelphia and they say, we need to fix the Articles of Confederation. And it doesn't take them long to look at it and say, there's no way to fix this mess. We need to throw it out and start all over. And so we refer to this as the Constitutional Convention, okay, in the summer of 1787. It ran from May to September. It was the hottest time of the year. And what they did is they just plain closed the windows in the hall they were meeting in so nobody could hear. And they were all sworn to secrecy. And the leading person on this, two guys who were the leaders, James Madison of Virginia and Alexander Hamilton, who was a delegate from New York. And what they want to do, first and foremost, is create a stronger national central government. Okay? So there are a number of ideas that come out of this. First of all, they say we're going to have a stronger, separate, powerful central government. We're going to divide powers between the national government and the state government. This is an idea referred to as federalism. We divide powers, I think of it as vertically. Okay? Then, within the national government, we're going to divide powers, I like to think of it as horizontally. We will divide powers between three branches of government: the executive, the legislative, and the judicial. Okay? Remember Montesquieu? Separation of powers. Each of these branches of government, and we'll be looking at this later, each of these branches of government will have the ability to limit the powers of the other two branches. This is the idea of checks and balances. Again, from Montesquieu. Okay? Now, when they start working on this, everybody's not in agreement. What are we going to do for our government, our national government? What's it going to look like? And initially, there are a number of different proposals. We're going to have an executive branch. We're going to have a president. Everybody's kind of agreed on that. But what's our legislative branch going to look like? And the first guy to present something is a guy named William Patterson. He's from New Jersey. New Jersey is a smaller state, so he presents something that's going to be in the best interest of the smaller states. We refer to it as the New Jersey Plan. In the New Jersey Plan, there would be one House of Representatives in the legislature, and each state would have equal representation in that House. In Patterson's plan, each state has one representative. You could have two, you could have three, but everybody's the same. Well, the big states, the populous states like Virginia and New York, they're not real set with that. Connecticut's okay. Delaware's okay with that because they have small populations. But Virginia and New York say this isn't fair to us. So what happens is a guy named James Madison. James Madison is really important in all of this because James Madison, among other things, keeps meticulous notes. We know what we know about the Constitution and how it came to be because James Madison kept a notebook. James Madison comes up with something referred to as the Virginia Plan. With the Virginia Plan, we have something called proportional representation, in which each state has representation based on the number of people in the state. So because Virginia has more people than New Jersey, Virginia will have more representatives and have a larger voice in the government. Madison also proposes that we have a bicameral legislature, meaning we're going to have two houses. So he's modeling it on the British Parliament, the House of Lords, and the House of Commons. And he's also looking at the Roman form of government. Okay? And what happens is, so we've got the Virginia Plan and we've got the New Jersey Plan. Each favors either small states or large states. A guy named Roger Sherman comes along. Roger Sherman comes in and he says, here's what let's do. This is called the Great Compromise. Let's create a bicameral legislature, two houses. We'll have the House of Representatives and the Senate. In the House of Representatives, the number of representatives you have will be based on the population of your state. So that's the Virginia Plan. In the Senate, representation will be equal. And what ends up happening is every state has two representatives. So that incorporates the New Jersey Plan. Okay? And the other thing they have to deal with is slavery. And unfortunately, they don't really deal with slavery. It's kind of an unfortunate thing. They come up with another compromise. In the states where slavery is prevalent, Virginia, South Carolina, North Carolina, they want to count, Maryland, they want to count slaves as people. Well, this would give them even more of a population advantage. In the states in the north where we don't see as many slaves, they want to say, no, you can't count the slaves. Now, the problem with this is it doesn't address the central issue. Why do we have slavery at all? Why don't we just do away with slavery? They don't do it. And that's the unfortunate thing. What they do is they come up with a compromise and they say each state will count their slaves as 3/5 of a person. So you don't get full credit for that person and you get partial credit. But you're still going to treat that person as property because they're a slave. And that's the big problem. So now they've gotten all done with this. What are they going to do? How are they going to get it through? Well, what happens is three guys get together. This has to be ratified under the Articles of Confederation. Any change to the Articles has to be approved by 9 of the 13 states. three guys get together: Alexander Hamilton, James Madison, and John Jay. And what they do is they write a series of 85 articles that get published in newspapers around the country. And sometimes they sign them, but sometimes they just write that this is written by Publius. Publius is a name we learned about when we talked about Rome. He was the guy who wrote down the tables of the law that were posted in the forum. So they put these in newspapers, and after a while, everybody reads them. And generally speaking, what happens is once they do this, the people of the United States begin to say, yes, we approve this. But there's one other thing that's going on. There are people who are concerned that there aren't enough limitations on the federal government in terms of its relationship with people. They don't want the government becoming too powerful. What they want essentially is they want the English Bill of Rights to be put in this Constitution. So what James Madison does is he talks to people like Patrick Henry and other people like that who want a Bill of Rights, and he says, let's get the Constitution through. I personally, he says, Madison and others say, I think these are all included, but okay, we'll add the Bill of Rights. And the first thing we do when we have our new legislative branch, we will pass amendments and create the Bill of Rights. And that's what they do. Madison proposes 17, 12 get passed in the Senate. Eventually, we end up with 10 amendments or changes to the Constitution that are additions to the Constitution that outline the individual rights of people in the United States. Now, what we're going to do in the next video, I'm going to talk about how the powers are separated, how they are checks and balances on one another, and we're going to talk about some of the specific limitations set out in the Bill of Rights. But that's how we get the U.S. Constitution. It's a response to the failure of government under the Articles of Confederation. And the most important people that we associate with this and getting it through are Alexander Hamilton, James Madison, and John Jay, because they convince everybody to do it. So you need to remember those names. You need to remember the plans that I told you about, the two big compromises, and the purpose of the Bill of Rights. Okay? So you guys enjoy this day. Right now, I'm doing this on Monday. It's nice and sunny, and it looks like a great day. It should be a great day tomorrow, too. So get out, exercise, enjoy it, and think about your rights and privileges that you enjoy as a U.S. citizen. Okay? Talk to you later.